So, John,
Yes.
urban farming.
Yes.
So we're hearing a lot about it. We're hearing about it from grassroots all the way up to like high-level policy.
Yes.
So the conversation is pretty broad right now.
Very.
So what are we going to be looking at?
Urban farming in Detroit.
Okay.
So I'm going to figure out how to use this computer.
Okay.
And then I'm going to start showing you.
And make sure you're going to share it with me, right?
Oh, you want to watch it too?
Yeah, I want to watch it too.
Okay, so this is about a guy in Detroit who runs Brother Nature Produce. His name's Greg. So we're going to start. Okay, watch.
You're looking at the raw urban prairie. We're in a neighborhood just outside of downtown Detroit called Corktown. This used to be a neighborhood filled with people. Most of the schools have been like looted, stripped out. Most of the businesses that you see here, they're liquor stores or gas stations. Kind of like New Orleans, but without a hurricane. My business is Brother Nature Produce, and it's a half-acre farm, soon to be a 2-acre farm, chemical-free, pesticide and fertilizer-free. We sell to local farmers markets and local restaurants. And we also sell to people in the neighborhood or give food away to people in the neighborhood who, neighbors and other folks here. It's a big risk to take, but I've seen that there's an insatiable demand for locally grown greens, herbs, edible flowers, soon fruit on an acre of land or more. You can make a living. For the last few years, a lot of what was going on in the city with urban farming largely was associated with the greening of Detroit and their garden resource program, which is a really great model for how do you get hundreds and hundreds of people to convert their lot or their extra backyard space into community gardens. But what a lot of these larger scale growers have been doing is working together. We're applying for a grant through Kresge as a group of us, the D-Town Farm, which is the Detroit Community Black Food Security Network. Brother Nature is part of it. East Michigan Environmental Action Council, because we're involved in food justice, is a part of that. The Earthworks Farm. Earthworks is one of the few like 2-acre farms in the city, and they do a lot of stuff for the farmers market. They do cooking classes. They do a lot of just straight up food justice work. They grow most of their food not for themselves or for profit, but for the food bank. Because usually, like, food banks have, you know, the government cheese and, like, the unhealthy stuff. But here, Earthworks grows healthy food. And in this greenhouse right here, they grow all of the starts, you know, like the tomato plants and stuff like that the gardeners use to transplant. They do a lot of beekeeping workshops and stuff like that. Pretty soon all of these rows will be tilled and developed. Looks like they are on their way here. And this specifically is food for the food bank. So, in short, like, I got a lot of inspiration for what I was going to do, like with the greenhouse there, the hoop house there, and just how they do things here, which is really helpful to me, you know, to kind of know where I'm going. That you can manage almost like a soccer field size plot of land, and you can do that by hand. This plot is about almost an acre in size. They have a hothouse, and they grow all kinds of things like green beans and sugar peas and beets and all sorts of things that go into the food bank. Kind of an amazing project. It's all by hand. They have a rototiller, right? But it's all done by hand, organically and ethically. We're hoping to have like almost a union or a grouping collaboration of large 1-acre, 2-acre gardeners or small farms working together in this city. Our community brunch and a lot of the food justice activities here, it has to do with better uses of the food. You know, we need to eat healthier. To me, the most exciting piece of the food justice and the activities around local food with the Corktown Community Brunch and all these other things are we're sharing skills and we're sharing ideas of how to make our local food taste better. And to me, it's like that's the best way to fight corporate America, is to have a better product, have a healthier product, have a product that takes less time and money ultimately to feed us. And we can do that. We have all this open land. We have all these ideas on how to make something better that they cannot make in their factory model. So part of my vision is to have a place that is liberated you know, and we need to start first with the food system. Let's use this available land and let's take control of our food system.
So the Brother Nature example, Greg down in Detroit, is interesting. Some of the challenges around these big issues is that we see an example somewhere else. We're like, oh, we should do that here.
Right.
Or, that would be so nice, but I have no idea how it scales to here. You know, part of the Detroit example is because the city is destitute. The city is declared bankruptcy. Like, we are not in that state in Toronto. And so to get the amount of land and to get
Which is great that they're taking that challenge and turning it into that kind of opportunity.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. But it's not our urban condition here.
Right. We're going to have to be much more
We're going to have to be more nimble and creative.
Yeah. I love that there's organizations like Yes in My Backyard. People who are saying, I have a backyard, you want a garden, you want an urban farm, whatever we're calling it, you know, come do it in my backyard.
Right.
Is this always going to stay kind of a niche thing?
And what's it really about, right? Like, I mean, I think it's about like strengthening community ties and giving people sort of, you know, a vision to a type of economic development that they might not have had otherwise. Like, what capacity does urban farming have to actually feed a city?
Right.
Like, do people actually want to be growing their own food?
Well, and does urban farming refer to the great example you just said, or is, you know, Montreal and Vancouver have these commercial rooftop gardens
that produce 1,000 pounds of food a day?
Yeah. So when you're talking about the systemic, how do we feed a city? You probably need a combination of various factors.
Is it easier for governments to sort of say, oh yeah, there's a tangible output, we're producing food, we should invest in creating the systems that support urban farming, versus something that is a service that people might not be able to see?
You know, you look at the Ontario government passing the Ontario Local Food Act recently.
So what does that mean? What is in the Local Food Act?
So there's a local food fund in there, which is really about, and what I can't tell, and it's early days for that program, so I'll give them time to sort it out. But is it about getting local food into the grocery store, or is it about supporting, you know, the decentralization of food systems? So it's really tough when it gets down to various, you know, that level of decentralization for government to really help in any significant way, as opposed to community groups who can, you know, have that kind of level of touch and feel that they can actually get stuff off the ground.
A number of years ago, my partner Eric was doing a podcast and on farming, and so I found myself on Saturday mornings going to like small farms all over Ontario. And one year we went to, it was early on a Saturday morning, we drove up to a farm in King City where this guy grows sprouts that you can buy in like at Whole Foods and at Essence of Life Organics and all of these great health food stores in the city. And so we went to this sprout farm, and you know, I didn't even have a mental model of what a sprout farm looked like, and it was more or less just, it was a building, right? It was a greenhouse, and it was amazing to me that I have seen his product in stores, and it took so little space to actually create like that abundance of supply. It completely shifted my model. It was like, it was not just like, oh, this is where the sprouts come from. That's so cool. It was like, oh my God, I could do. I don't have the talent to do it. He doesn't.
I could grow sprouts,
but I could do this.
We've had conversations with folks who are trying to figure out how to do farming in underground parking lots in the city. So we have a major oversupply of parking spaces because of a very ridiculous law that requires, when you build a condo, you have to have a certain amount of parking spaces, even if those people don't have cars.
Who live in the city.
Who live in the city.
Who are buying the condos.
And buying condos. So we've got a lot of excess parking supply underground. So this guy is working on ways to use those underground parking spaces to create, you know, basically farms in the city, underground. We
have almost 2,000 towers across this city that in some cases are housing vertical poverty. And in addition to that, there's no community building, community space, like space for people who want to be engaged on the ground in neighborhoods. And so urban farming can provide that connective tissue.
Well, and for those who don't know about these towers, you know, they're this kind of tower in the park vision from the 1960s. So you've seen them as you've driven past.
You've seen them as you've flown in.
Yeah, or if you've flown in. There's 2,000 of them. They're cement. They were built between 1950 and 1970, and they're very tall tower with this grass all the way around it, which is supposed to be this vision of this nature back in there, and what they turned out to be kind of wastelands in a sense. So, but the opportunity, there's, I was chatting with someone in the city of Toronto. There's 2,000 hectares of land around
That's
just
super-
those towers.
Just those towers. I'm interested to know if there was going to be like a call to action of some kind.
Yeah.
Like if I were to have to do an investigation on urban farming, I would love to just go door to door
Yeah.
and just know within like 3 blocks in every direction, north, south, east, west of my home,
Yeah.
how many urban farms, gardens that grow food that people can like nourish themselves off of
Yeah.
are in my immediate community. So what would you do?
Well, mine's going to be more of a, what I think people can do. 'Cause
Okay,
I'm not going to do anything.
what do you think people should do?
I was a farmer. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, that's true. You spent your formative year number
Very
8
formative years,
farming.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
What would you
game is-
invite people to do?
Well, the only thing I'm thinking of is the 101-day event.
Oh yeah.
And how I love your kind of idea of the empty spaces in the city and how
Yeah.
we can kind of turn those into farms. So,
Yeah.
101 Day is on June 7th, 2014. And it's going to be 100 acts of urban change across the city in one day. And we want people to experiment, right? Like we want people to test stuff out. And I think
We want people to engage in a way that is, there's light to heavy engagement, which
Yeah.
is how can you, beautify and change the nature of a space?
Yeah.
How can you prototype something that
Right.
could have a long-term
Exactly.
impact in a community?
Exactly.
Right?
Let's take over some of those spaces that are sitting vacant right now.
Yeah.
Let's put a farm in there for the day. Let's see if we can build something out, while it's sitting vacant or being developed. So that would be my kind of pitch: is 101 Day that people come up with some ideas to
Yes.
test some new models for urban agriculture in Toronto. So that would be my.
Okay,
Is that
that's
deal?
a good one.
Deal.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
paying or am I paying for this one?
I think you get the check.
Okay, I
Yeah.
got it. Check. Let's go.
Check.